Oh,
Computer, what is your story? Oh, what a tale.
can you can you just go tell the dancers that in order to get to the stream, the people who are trying to watch it should. Well, they're just delayed. I don't know. You know what? I think I just need to not worry.
Mm-hmm.
And if the live stream doesn't work, then the live stream doesn't work. I don't know why.
Can you like go stand on stage?
Hmm. It okay. It's working. I just don't know how to share it. Is it like each time you reopen the stream, it's new? I think.
Mm.
Let me hit the time. 45 minutes. Okay. I'm gonna go and let the dancers know that the link has changed and that I just put it up and that they can copy and paste it.
This computer, is that Windows 10?
Yeah, it did, but it
It's okay now.
clearly don't have a sense of humor at the moment.
That's all right.
Uh,
Everything's okay?
yes, I
Did
think
you need an
everything's
extra screen?
working.
You good?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, well, sure.
Hmm. And you told the dancers?
Yes.
And I just updated the social media. So
There's a lot of people over in the Deal Center trying to pull themselves away.
okay. So do you think we should maybe go a little longer? Or what? I thought people come in late today.
Yeah, I have a feeling a lot of them might be early to come in because they have but I would say 5 minutes is a good, if you don't
Great.
mind taking
I've
off.
told the dancers is that 5 will take off.
I would say that's fair.
History is more like, it's dangerous and it's traditional and it's 20, 30 years of technology. It's like producing native dance. I took classes in this. Yes, I don't take so many classes anymore because it's done research and I teach classes in anthropology, but I'm still in charge of it.
Hey everybody, we're going to get started shortly. Just give a couple more minutes and it will take you to our digital program. This performance is all about ecology, so we're trying to save paper. If you don't have a QR code scanner, that's fine. You can go to corinwicks.com. That's
Wait, W?
KRINWICKS.com. Under the choreography tab, you'll find the Embodied Ecology performance. And from there, if you click on that, you should see right at the top of the page a link to our digital program.
But it's different to see the whole thing experience in the Yeah, yes, I'm sure. But so at the Sanders Wells Theater, there's this big group here. I think it's more than they have another area that they can do some stuff before they see the final thing. And so sometimes they don't get the worst things. But they're going to have somebody here long enough to be able to do the lighting. Take 5 days on this. And it's a very good lighting person. She's worked with them all her life. And then she's really good. And so that they take a long time, depending upon how sophisticated it is. I haven't done any studies with them overall, and I really think I can do that. Perhaps it's build up this, but there's a lot of study on this, and this is a source of everywhere. They're doing it. It's so beautiful, and they dig down. You said it's really good. It's
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you to the Body of Knowledge Conference for having us. This is the inaugural performance of Embodied Ecology. It is an interdisciplinary collaboration between myself, Corinne Ann Wicks. I'm an MFA student at the University of California, Irvine in the dance department, and Piper Wallingford, who is a PhD candidate in the Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology. What we're trying to do with this project is model Piper's research using dance and interactive video systems. So all of the video you're going to see this evening is edited in real time using programs I've created that interact with a Kinect camera and manipulate visual data using movement.
So one thing we really tried to do with embodied ecology is appeal to both logic and emotion. And one thing that comes to mind when you think of a scientist is a crazy man surrounded by chemicals, but that's not always the case. In fact, most people who go into science do so because they have a strong emotional reaction. And for me, that emotional reaction was visiting a coral reef when I was a child, and then returning to that same reef years later and feeling such a profound sense of loss at the way things had changed. So we hope that you'll enjoy our show. Thank you.
Thank you. So how did you get into the study of marine biology?
It's actually kind of funny because I grew up in Colorado, which is pretty much the most landlocked state you can have. But growing up, my parents knew the ocean and how many people to the beach that I grew up in Florida were hearing. And as soon as I remember we talk about mental things and life things, as soon as I remember you, this is Julia from North Carolina, certified to scuba if I was learning to see the reef that 10 years ago there was so much vibrant, there was so much more life. And it's funny now for me because I've been diving for 15 years. There's so much more life. And there was so much more life. And it's funny now for me because I've been diving for 15 years. And I'm discussing some more things that
I'm studying the effect of climate change on predators, relationships are very important for intertidal communities and other communities throughout the world because they're really an important driver of biodiversity. And biodiversity, which is just a metric of how diverse an ecosystem is really important because it tells you a lot about the stability and the health of the ecosystem.
I think one of the most challenging things is entering STEM fields as a woman. There's not a lot of representation of people that are similar to you, and I think this is, true not only for women but also for underrepresented communities. It's hard to sort of see yourself in a position if there's nobody there that looks like you or that thinks like you. And I've been really lucky that I've had some amazing women who've mentored me throughout the way, but I think that's something that there is still a lot that can be improved on. I think also just in terms of our general culture.
So this summer I did a really large study that looks at how distribution patterns of both predators and prey vary over different spatial scales. So I looked at the longitudinal gradient, so all the way from Southern California to Northern Washington, and then also on a smaller gradient, so just within the intertidal, from low tide to high tide essentially. And within those two parameters, I was really interested in how the distribution patterns of predators and prey vary in relationship to one another, and also how they vary depending on how hard they hit a certain cytokine like C-star wasting syndrome. So C-star wasting syndrome is this disease that has really affected almost all of the different C-star species along the coast, especially high C-star species. And this is really important because C-stars are considered T-star predators, so they have a very large effect on the community around them, and they're super important for diversity because they allow other species to move in, whereas without them, most of the C-stars are the entire population. So I'm really interested in how climate change is going to affect predators and prey differently. So we can already sort of see an example of this with C-star wasting syndrome. It's been proposed that it's been caused by a virus and that the virus is much more active in warmer temperatures. So as sea surface temperatures have been rising the last few years, so have reports of C-star wasting syndrome, and this is just one example of how climate change could affect one species in particular, and then that could have a cascading effect to other species. So I'm really interested in linking the relationships between predators and prey, and how abiotic factors like temperature or desiccation are going to affect each of them differently. Climate change is one of the greatest threats that are currently facing marine communities around the world, whether it's intertidal communities along our shores or coral reefs or the open ocean. And there are a lot of different synergistic ways that the world is changing, whether it's rising temperatures or changing ocean chemistry. And one effect of this is an increased prevalence of disease. So sea star wasting syndrome, which you heard me talk about a little bit in the last section, is a disease that has really affected sea stars along our coast and has almost decimated populations. So as a sea star contracts this disease, they essentially waste away from the outside in and lose their structural integrity. And our question as scientists is, what is the effect going to be for other species in that community?
So the choreography for this section is based a lot on the way Pisester wasting syndrome affects these creatures. There's a lot of very visceral footage and imagery that comes from this research of sea stars that are literally liquefying or losing limbs. So most of the movement in this section is taking that imagery as inspiration. Also, using the interactive system and the videos you're going to see, we're trying to establish the relationship between human impacts, things like carbon consumption and climate change, on the spread of these kinds of diseases.
Understanding how the loss of Pisaster and other keystone predators in an ecosystem is really the focus of my research. And ecological theory, based on a study by Robert Payne, suggests that when you remove a keystone predator from an ecosystem, you lose biodiversity as other species are able to take over. And so in this section, Corinne really tried to model that idea.
So we're dealing with predator-prey relationships in this section. The dancers move between roles as predator and prey, and we're really trying to model how, when we lose a keystone predator in an ecosystem, one sort of prey will outcompete the rest and dominate.
I'm studying the effect of climate change on. When did you get into the study of marine biology?
It's actually kind of funny because I grew up in Colorado, which is pretty much.
Det var där alla brukar säga feeding up and I has it. Study of marine
Biology.
It's actually kind of funny because
Grew up in Colorado, which is pretty much the most landlocked state you can have. But growing up, my always traveled
Okay.
So I'm really interested in how climate change influences affect predators and climate change is going to affect predators and prey technique. So we can already sort of see an example of this with snow wasting salmon. It's been proposed that it's been caused by a virus and that the virus is much more active. How did you
how do you research? How do you? How do you?
I'm studying the effects of polymorphism for humans that are very, very key. Interplay relationships are very important for intertidal communities and other communities throughout the world because they're really an important driver of biodiversity. And biodiversity, which is just a metric of how diverse an ecosystem is really important because it tells you a lot about the stability and the health of an ecosystem. I'm studying the effects of climate change on relationships.
Intertidal communities are unique ecosystems that are exposed to both terrestrial and marine conditions every day. As they're exposed to terrestrial conditions, they also experience extreme events in heating and desiccation. And this has important effects on where different species are found in the intertidal. In the lower intertidal, heat and desiccation are not as extreme, as species are most often submerged. This is where we find many types of fleshy algae and kelps, as well as invertebrate species like anemones and sponges. Above this zone is the mussel bed. And mussels are important foundation species as they facilitate settling and increase biodiversity. By forming dense aggregations, mussels not only create habitat, but they help to ameliorate some of the thermal stress that these environments are experiencing. In the highest zone in the intertidal, we find the barnacles, which are the most tolerant to heat and desiccation, and are therefore able to live in the most harshest environment in the intertidal. While these abiotic factors set many of the distribution patterns we see on local and larger scales, biological interactions also play an extremely important role. predators, such as sea stars or whelks or crabs, help set lower limits of species by preventing one species, such as mussels, from outcompeting others. We can also see that many predators are found within the mussel bed, such as whelks. However, understanding the different biological interactions and the abiotic stresses is important for understanding how these communities are going to respond during climate change, as these two interacting effects are likely to drive distribution patterns that change over the coming century. In order to understand how climate change is likely to affect these ecosystems, we first need to understand the processes that drive these distribution and community patterns today. We want to thank everyone for joining us for Embodied Ecology. We hope that you take away something from it today, and we definitely encourage anyone to come talk to us after if you'd like to learn more about our process or about our research.
We have so many people to thank this evening. Again, thank you to the Body of Knowledge Conference for having us here today, Simon Penny, Kelly Donaghy. We'd like to thank our academic advisors, John Crawford, Cascade Sortie, Lisa Nagel, I'm sorry, I'm out of breath. Our wonderful technical support, Bruce Warner, our lighting designers, Morgan and Nina, our composer, Bori Shin, and of course our beautiful dancers.
Now you get to repeat it. Yeah. This is the first. We're there for the first one. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So you're hoping this apex predator, right? This virus is taking it down.
Yeah.
But you said you predator-prey
Predator-prey
relationship.
relationship.
Are we overpopulated as predators? Because
No.
I know there's a huge sea star like territorial population problem because they're killing it in the sea right now. Yo, and you talked about coral.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Yeah. Oh,
yo,
there is.
see,
Yeah.
you know, okay,
So it's really a problem in coastal ecosystems. So
coastal or down?
specifically everywhere along the west coast, so all the way up
See,
to
not everywhere. Everywhere has different sea star problems.
well, everywhere along the coast. So
In the west coast.
in the west coast.
See, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Where?
Very specific. So I study west coast intertidal ecosystem exclusively. So the biological thing here. Sea stars increase biodiversity. So the question really is.
So they're predators.
So they're keystone flavors. So they have it's just so much.
That's so crazy cool.
No. Well, yeah, but not
Keep in mind, like some
title.
of us like wear it.
Yeah.
And it's just from growing up. Oh,
Yeah.
black coral. Let's see.
Yeah.
What? But you're
Yeah.
but I'm like, yo, I've never seen black coral.
Yeah.
You know, like you have to be in
Yeah.
I was like, yo, there's coral here?
Yeah, there is.
See?
Get out of it.
See? And there we go. And so yo, that's nice sea stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have like the crown of
See? I don't know. Where in the Pacific?
mostly like the Indo-Pacific.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I don't consider the Pacific Ocean. I consider it the Indian.
Okay, well, yeah, that area, like, I know, like, Micronesia,
So I was like, thank God, let me create the virus. I was like, oh, yo, work. So what's the virus do? Because it goes after their exoskeleton. Now I'm going to get immunology on the little quick. What does it do? It breaks down the chip in the strong structure. Like, does it permeate the cell? Of course everybody knows. How is it taking it down? It's an exoskeleton problem, right?
everyone knows what's really causing it or why,
Oh.
what's driving it. I mean, it's linked to higher disease.
So it's more
Good work. Congratulations. Yeah.
It's interesting, yeah. I mean, there's definitely this is such a new phenomenon. Nobody
That's great. I really liked it. Yeah, good work. It was so nice to see it finally come together.
I know.
Wow. Day and night, right? So you go home and then talk about it.
I know. She's we should have a meeting like right now. I'll give her a few days. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember when I was young. Now I'm old and I can do science now, and I can't do it in school because they always would do last minute shows, and I'm like, I would give everything to it. It would take me out of it.
So we're talking about gender.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
So we can talk about the dates and everything, and maybe talk a little. We could have some time. I've been away so much, as you know, but in January I'll be here. But we can talk a little bit then about anything you guys would like some feedback on.
Yeah, that would be great.
You guys got a lot of shows.
No, they're going to restage it in January. We have another kind of event happening that they can put it into. So yeah.
Did you have
Good. Well,
the best thing
Thank
congratulations.
you so much. Yeah.
And thanks for your courage to be involved in all this.
Oh.
It's a bit of a step.
It is.
But I'm really glad you guys did it. And so we'll be kind of talking with Adam and some of the others about some of the broad missile.
I know the sleeping stars. A lot of people are traveling.
Yeah.
David? Is there anything else going on right now? What else is popping on this day?
Good. Okay.
Well, the other
Thank
performance,
you.
There's two performances tonight, huh?
Yeah, this
it's
one's
really
short.
cool. Yeah, it's electronic music. One person playing with their body, playing instruments with electronic digital sounds with their body relief.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but is the bar still open or not?
Probably you could get that before you see the show.
What? No, I don't know what time the show is after this.
9:15 and I found start.
You mean the bar and the wheel?
You're gonna have to run and balance.
Yeah, that's fine. Drinking, I don't drink.
Just shoot it down and then run.
I'm gonna need them for like
Things are, the bar is higher here. We're working more at the dance students and music students, yeah.
yeah.
Not too something to shake them up.
Yeah. Sometimes what they need is a student organization where they review their work and then that starts to push them higher and higher. That's what happened at Michigan when I was there. We started a film and video student association.
You're exactly right, yeah. That's the experience that I've had. Teach the students to practice themselves. Tired of playing stupid games. Give them some tools. First, give them some tools because otherwise, especially the first few years, they just do stupid things with each other.
You know, they need a little bit of time to mess around, get their bearings, and then they can start doing something serious and just see other people doing good serious stuff. Then they might play it out.
Chemistry, social pages, some old-fashioned lectures so you can see how does that work, what concepts are like and how can we just, and then they organize the carvers, have the theme sets up the coffee and the snacks, and somebody else designing the poster and the program, and they model the papers, and it's nice to get back. To turn into grit. But
We should talk
it's
about.
Hello? Hey everyone, we're going to get started shortly. In case you haven't seen our posters, we're doing a paperless program because we're all about ecology. So there's a QR code in the bottom corner that you can scan with your phone, and it'll take you to our digital program. You can also visit my website, corinwicks.com, Corinne spelled Koryn. And if you go to choreography and then embodied ecology, it'll take you to the digital program. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to Embodied Ecology. My name is Corinne, and this is a collaborative project between myself and Piper Wallingford. I am a master's student here at UCI in the Department of Dance, and my research deals a lot with interactions between dance, technology, and in particular, interactive video systems, which you're going to see tonight. Piper is a PhD candidate in the Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology. And what we're trying to do this evening is model her research on the effects of climate change on predator and prey relationships in intertidal ecosystems through dance and interactive technology.
So in this first section, we really wanted to appeal to both logic and emotion.
And many people, when they think of a scientist, think of a crazy man in a lab coat surrounded by chemicals. And we really just wanted to sort of present the reality, and that is that lots of scientists go into their field because they have a very strong emotional moment. And for me, that moment was when I was a young child and I visited a coral reef for the first time. And I was just completely blown away by the amount of life and the vibrancy that I saw. And then 10 years later, when I visited the reef again, I felt this profound sense of loss at how the ecosystem in the reef had changed due to coral bleaching and introduced species. And I think that's what really inspired me to go into this field. Enjoy the show. Thank you.
So how did you get into the study of marine biology? It's actually kind of funny because I grew up in Colorado, which is pretty much the most landlocked state you can have. But growing up, my parents knew the ocean and to drive how many people to the beach. So I grew up in Florida. We were hearing all the things I remember we talk about myself saying similar things. Sometimes I remember hanging with Julia, North Carolina, certified to see what I was going to be in the reef like 10 years ago. There was so much vibrant, there was so much fun life. And it's funny now for me because I've been diving for 15 years. There's so much fun life. And there was so much fun life. And it's funny now for me because I've been diving for 15 years. And everyone's still saying similar things.
I'm studying the effect of climate change on predators, relationships are very important for intertidal communities and other communities throughout the world because they're really an important driver of biodiversity. And biodiversity, which is just a metric of how diverse an ecosystem is really important because it tells you a lot about the stability and the health of the ecosystem.
I think one of the most challenging things is entering STEM fields as a woman. There's not a lot of representation of people that are similar to you, and I think this is, true not only for women but also for underrepresented communities. It's hard to sort of see yourself in a position if there's nobody there that looks like you or that thinks like you. And I've been really lucky that I've had some amazing women who've mentored me throughout the way, but I think that's something that there is still a lot that can be improved on. I think also just in terms of our general culture.
So this summer I did a really large study that looks at how distribution patterns of both predators and prey vary over different spatial scales. So I looked at a latitudinal gradient, so all the way from Southern California to Northern Washington, and then also on a smaller gradient, so just within the intertidal, from low tide to high tide essentially. And within those two parameters, I was really interested in how the distribution patterns of predators and prey vary in relationship to one another, and also how they vary depending on how hard they hit a certain cytokine like sea-star wasting syndrome. So sea-star wasting syndrome is this disease that has really affected almost all of the different sea-star species along the coast, especially high sea-star species. And this is really important because sea stars are considered keystone predators, so they have a very large effect on the community around them, and they're super important for diversity because they allow other species to move in, whereas without them, lots of sea stars or the entire population. So I'm really interested in how climate change is going to affect predators and prey differently. So we could already sort of see an example of this with sea star wasting syndrome. It's been proposed that it's been caused by a virus and that the virus is much more active in warmer temperatures. So as sea surface temperatures have been rising the last few years, so have reports of sea star wasting syndrome. And this is just one example of how climate change could affect one species in particular, and then that could have a cascading effect to other species. So I'm really interested in linking the relationships between predators and prey and how abiotic factors like temperature or desiccation are going to affect each of them differently. Climate change is one of the greatest threats that are facing marine communities around the world, whether it's coral reefs or intertidal ecosystems to the open ocean. And one of our challenges as scientists is trying to understand the different ways that this is going to affect communities and populations and individual species. So one example of this can be seen through sea star wasting syndrome, which is a disease that primarily affects sea stars and has really had a devastating effect on the West Coast.
So in this section, we've really taken Pisaster wasting syndrome as the departure for our movement generation. There's a lot of very visceral documentation of this disease. The sea stars literally liquefy and lose their structural integrity. And so the movement is based on looking at Piper's research and these documents and trying to build movement based on that. In interacting with the interactive systems and the visuals you're seeing, we're trying to draw relationships between our carbon consumption and climate change on the spread of these diseases. It's been posited that the disease spreads quicker in higher temperatures, which has led to the massive onslaught of the disease seen on the West Coast in recent years.
Climate change can affect species not only directly by affecting their mortality or their fitness, but also indirectly through changing biological interactions. So my research really focuses on predator-prey interactions and how these different types of relationships are likely to change in the future. This section deals with predator-prey interactions. The dancers move between roles of predators and prey, and we tried to model the thesis that with the loss of a keystone predator, one kind of prey will outcompete the rest and have dominance in an ecosystem.
I'm studying the effect of climate change on
Study of marine biology. It's actually kind of funny because grew up in Colorado, which is pretty much the most landlocked state you can have. But growing up, my always taught
Okay. So I'm really interested in how climate change is going to affect predators and going to affect predators and prey differently. So we can already sort of see an example of this with star wasting syndrome. It's been proposed that it's been caused by a virus and that the virus is much more active. How did you how did you how did how did you how did how did you how did you read how did you research how did you how did you
effect of how we interplay relationships. Interplay relationships are very important for intertidal species and other communities throughout the world because they're really an important driver of biodiversity. And biodiversity, which is just a metric of how diversity of a system is really important because it tells you a lot about the stability and the health of an ecosystem. I'm studying the effects of climate change on interplay relationships. Thank you.
Intertidal ecosystems are some of the most unique environments that exist. Located between terrestrial and fully marine environments, they experience both types of conditions on a daily basis. As the tide goes out, these species experience desiccation and thermal stress. And these types of abiotic stressors help to drive distribution patterns on the local and also on larger scales. Closest to the subtidal, we find fleshy algae like kelps and invertebrate species such as anemones that are poorly able to adapt to desiccation or heat. Because this area is most often submerged, it provides a refuge for them from these types of harsh environmental conditions. In the mid-intertidal zone, we often find mussels. And mussels are important foundation species. They form dense aggregations, and this mussel bed allows other species to settle because of the increased habitat as well as the stress amelioration that this habitat provides. Above the mussels is the barnacle zone. Barnacles are the most tolerant of heat and desiccation, and this allows them to live high in the intertidal, which is rarely submerged. These types of abiotic processes are important for driving distribution patterns in the intertidal, but biological interactions are equally important and complicate the system. Predators such as sea stars increase biodiversity in these areas. Without predation, mussels would outcompete other species and take over the intertidal. Sea stars, however, preferentially prey on these mussels, and by doing so, other species can move into this habitat and take advantage of the openings in space. However, understanding the different ways that climate change might affect these individual species and indirectly affect them through changing biological interactions is essential for predicting what the community might look like in the future. As scientists, our goal is to understand the complex interactions that are occurring today in order to predict how they might change in the future. we'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. We really appreciate everyone being here. This is our opening night, so we'd love to talk to you more about our performance afterwards if you'd like to come up and talk to us.
We have a huge number of people to thank for this performance. First and foremost, the Body of Knowledge Conference, Simon Penny, thank you for having us here. Kelly Donahue, who was instrumental in getting everything together. Our academic advisors, John Crawford, Cascade Sorty, Lisa Noggle. Our fabulous tech team, Bruce Warner. Our lighting designers, Morgan and Nina. Our composer, Bori Shin. UCI Oceans and the Medici Scholarship Fund for funding this crazy endeavor, and our beautiful dancers.
It links with David Hayes. David Hayes talk. That was great.
Yeah.
No, that's horrible to hear. Because
Yes, of course.
I was appreciating because there were three things I wanted to do. Everything I wanted to do in that blog.
I had marked which one I was going to go to, and then that one I also had all 3 marks. Question mark on the side of the program.
It was the worst. And I just kind of skipped around a bit.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were doing it, but thanks, guys.
Yeah, they were doing with their band and their friends. They were with the kindergarten team. Checking out concepts and acting them out.
Right. So I think so. Yeah. Well, it's like, yeah, I just been like wasn't sure. But yeah. That stress, I don't think they are.
Performance, but also competitive.
Yeah, no, I
Like
can't
you
really.
all are.
That's all right. No, we're in that. Yeah.
You go up in that corner and they don't like this, they don't like them, and you keep like, they have to act academic without realizing how it is a class. And I was good at like everybody else is here.
You're doing till Monday and Tuesday? Oh, okay. Also, that week for Sunday? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So just let me know. Yeah, thanks.
Just take me from me.
Take care.
Anthropology and
High five. Because you're living in front of me.
That's what you were doing.
well, you can artistry is like one is the performance and one more usually part is technical. Getting something I was going to be because I understood lectures
Yeah. Great.
Cut through it.
Not sure. Yeah.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Save that. Yeah.
Probably why one of the reasons your talk was so great. Because it really was for a very good story.
Good luck.
Yeah, that was cool.
So I will always remember this
We always read tomorrow too.
Remember?
Yeah.
Well, but
Music.
Someone did wow, you're not really digital. I didn't realize it was that.
Yeah, it's like usually start gearing up and I start briefing at 6 a.m.
Good work.
Thank you.
Love to see this whole thing embodied.
If you're in the groove of that, I don't mind it.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds hard to do it
Mirror
like just one
that
day.
way. That's
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I have it where it's like you have you do it for a while, and then you
Especially after a full week of work.
yeah, one day we have to go at 5.
That's what we used to do when we were at the aquarium in New York.
Oh, no.
Well, you had to be there by 8 in order for the subway
Yeah,
to
and
come
she
down.
does a lot of
Right.
very vibrant, and we talk a lot about. Yeah, it didn't occur to me actually.
Yeah,
Really? And Miwa Maitreya, Matreya. And
It's a great background for thinking about his guests.
and
Yeah, it really is.
she always tries to find a way to understand like these scientific concepts through her body. For example, one time she went to Mount Wilson Observatory and she was like, I wonder what it would be like to touch the moon. So she made this film where like her body was the earth and she was like reaching out and touching the moon and the dust. So it's like you can do that. Well, all of us together came up with this idea that there's there's a book about it. The idea that like climate change, a lot of the big scientific issues, how we can't consciously understand them because they're too large. Do you remember the one for that?
I don't, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So we were talking about like a system like that would make you understand
I just sent an email. I was like, I haven't seen an email. Am I supposed to? I just want to make sure.
That's really what we're aiming for. It's one thing to be out in the field and seeing this
So what was happening with this?
Oh, it's just live stream.
You did? Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Cloud.
Yes, there's a cloud up there, and that's gonna hold all of it. It just evaporates and dies.
I really do love this sport.
We're gonna have that someday. We're gonna have like sort of weird integrated.
We will.
Like the internet will become the environment.
Everybody's gonna be running into the cloud.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
new bird strike, cloud strike.
Did you watch
That'd be great.
No.
Actually, you know what? Just leave them all over the world.
like,
They're not, unless you really want to watch them, but.
Like a Twilight Zone, but they're like an hour.
Wait.
And they're
sweaty.
technology like now, so they're like really spiky. And each one stands.
But I don't want to forget.
There was one recently about like drone bees. Like,
I don't know.
yeah, drone bees. That,
What? I
like
always
if,
like my dancers.
like
I'm
if
like,
the
it's
bees
fine,
had all
guys.
died off,
Yeah.
where they were.
As
They
choreographer, we're like, whatever.
kind of drones.
So,
Kids
okay.
do the same thing, sort of self-deprecate.
Yeah.
So it gets out of our control.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying.
Is this the skirt
It's
part?
like lots of stuff where you're like,
Oh, I believe in 10 years to resolve. I don't want to get this thing. Yeah. What are we going to do? What are we going to do about fake news? Braid doesn't work on fake news.
We're making a skirt pile.
They're much tougher than normal bees.
Skirt pile. She said if we really want it. She said we just give it to her. But if we really want to take it home, we want it. I give you my phone and then you just take it. I think I'm just gonna do this because I'm scared I'm gonna forget. Yeah, you'll never. I'm gonna. It's hard to remember. Want to start a short? We're starting a short pile. We're starting what? I was just trying to figure this out.
She's in the room.
Short pile.
No, it's very small. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank
because I wouldn't. Oh, to like rub on you?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I'm trying to squeeze it into your.
I was like,
Well, we didn't get one for you, Chelsea.
oh, thank you. Oh, yeah.
We are having a celebratory drink at our place. If anyone wants to go, do you want to sending the address while I give these away? Don't feel pressured. I know that's a game changer.
I know, I'm like,
It's been a long day.
Thank you.
Oh, I sent you that email before.
In my car.
I'm sorry.
did you take your shirt? Yes, if you want. I just laid it there.
Alright, y'all, I gotta go in my car. A little bit. I'm so excited to take Callie with you.
Merry Christmas, please. What? Merry Christmas to you. You too.
Okay. Just throw me in the bag. It'll be fine.
Okay. I mean, I'm gonna walk out right now, but are you leaving? You guys will get back, yeah. Merry Christmas. You're so I mean, I'm gonna be around. Yeah. I'll be around. Yeah. I'm not here. Wait, what? I'll see you guys next year. You don't want to set Kira. Everyone likes Kira. I think it might be over here. There's massage balls. Thank you.
Everything.
And we'll see you in the back. Merry Christmas, guys.
Merry Christmas. See you next year. Have a great break.
Same to you. Somebody drop their note. Oh, it's not Oh, she's holding it.
Oh, she's holding it.
I don't think we're gonna make it tonight. Yeah, totally understandable. Oh my god, thank you. Yeah, thank you. You guys are amazing. Like, I just like can't even understand it. We can't understand the science.
A lot of teardown to do, so I'm gonna start.
What can I?
Wrap up boards.
I can do that.